Go straight to item 8, which is 2 Sunnycroft. And doing that, Chris?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So the application site relates to 2 Sunnycroft, and it's for the change of use from use class C3 residential dwelling house to use class sui generis mother and baby child unit for up to 5 mothers and 5 baby/children between the ages of 0 and 5. And that is an amended proposal description. So in terms of the application details, as I say, it's to convert the existing dwelling house into a mother and baby child unit for 5 mothers and 5 babies/children between the ages of 0 and 5, and there would also be staff on site as well. As I say, the proposal description has been amended to a tighter description to provide clarity on the occupancy and the age ranges, and neighbours were reconsulted on this. So in terms of the facility itself, it's designed primarily for first-time young or vulnerable mothers. The unit will provide occupiers with focused parenting sessions focusing on a number of topics including budgeting, healthy eating, internet safety and personal hygiene, baby child safety and how to build healthy relationships and recognise early signs of domestic violence and abuse. It's designed to showcase the ability to support their offspring's development and wellbeing needs. The placements would last for up to 12 weeks unless an alternative duration, more or less, is agreed based on a family's assessed needs. Prior to the 12-week assessment completion, there would be reviews held at the end of weeks 2, 6 and 10. It's important to note that the application is a follow-up to a previous scheme, which was withdrawn to allow the applicant to prepare and submit further supporting information, including a detailed planning statement and statement of purpose. And there will be minimal external alterations to the dwelling, with the exception of additional security features. This slide shows the location of the site. An aerial image of the site. A couple of photos taken from the street. Some site photos showing the rear garden space. A photo of the front elevation, including parking space. Here we have the existing and proposed ground floor plans. The existing and proposed first floor plans. The existing and proposed rear elevations. The existing and proposed front elevations. So coming to the key issues with the application, in terms of the principle of development, policies H4 and L2 are relevant. It would result in the loss of a C3 dwelling house, but substituted for an alternative form of accommodation. Reversion to a family dwelling house is not precluded if circumstances change. The applicant has undertaken a FOI request with Essex County Council to establish local provision and demand. It's also noted that the application site is in a sustainable location located in proximity to a bus stop. In terms of the character and appearance, this was dealt with by policy PR1. There will be minimal changes to the external appearance of the property, as they be restricted to new security features. Visually, it would not be readily distinguishable as a mother and baby child unit within the street scene. In terms of residential amenity, these are covered by policy PL2. It would provide appropriate monitoring and management of the sui generis use. Staff would always be present, and Ofsted and County Council will, there will be monitoring procedures. The Essex Designing Outcry officers confirmed that they've held positive discussions with the applicant regarding the proposed security measures, and these are found to be satisfactory. It is recommended that prior to the first occupation of the unit, that a submission of a operation management plan is submitted to the council. And then finally, in terms of highways and parking issues, these are dealt with by policies IN2 and IN3. No objections were received by Essex Highways. The levels of car ownership potential would be comparable to a large family dwelling house, noting that it's currently a 5-bedroom property. The applicant also submitted a proposed parking plan showing 5 spaces within the site curtilage. Turning to the recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to the conditions outlined in the report, namely the time commencement condition, so the change of use to occur from 3 years from the date of the permission, that the occupation is restricted to 5 mothers and 5 baby/children aged between 0 and 5. Prior to first occupation, a operational management plan should be submitted to and approved by the local planning authority, and then finally the approved plans. Thank you.
Chris? Right, I'd call in the 2 people who are against it. Farouk Saraja. I do apologise. You come in the middle, press the left hand or right hand key.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. So good evening. This application results in the loss of a valuable family home, reducing housing stock in an area already facing significant housing shortages. Policy H4 of the Harlow local plan clearly prioritises protecting existing housing to meet Harlow's critical need for family homes and affordable housing. This application conflicts with Harlow's local development plan. The Freedom of Information request shows that there are already 19 family spaces available in Essex. This includes an existing mother and baby unit already established in Harlow. There were only 11 referrals made last year from the whole of Essex. This is down from 16 referrals that were made in 2023. So demand in Essex is declining. What it also shows, inversely, is that the proposed unit will need to accept referrals from outside Essex local authority, with additional families coming in from outside Essex. Without clear demonstrated local need for such a unit in Essex, let alone Harlow specifically, approval risks setting a precedent undermining broader housing and regeneration strategies. The use and intensity of the property will fundamentally change for the worse. The introduction of 24-hour security looking after 5 vulnerable unrelated families, having CCTV cameras in every bedroom, shift changes and visits from multiple support workers all under one roof will no doubt increase noise and disturbance levels far beyond that of a typical family home, impacting our privacy and amenity. We have to remember that each family requires specialist bespoke interventions so that they do not harm themselves or others. Protecting residential character and environment quality is a clear objective of policies PL1 and PL2, which this proposal undermines. While the application states it will be of residential use, I'm struggling to find how it applies when you have a conveyor belt of 5 unrelated families moving in and out every 4 to 12 weeks for the foreseeable future. This proposal's reliance on management plans and assurances does not fully address these material concerns. It won't change the disruption retrospectively when the damage is done time and time again from different families, which leads to that compounding effect for existing neighbours who are predominantly at the moment elderly, recently retired, young families, as well as medically vulnerable, which includes my household, who will have to endure this in our daily lives every day and night going forward into the future if this proposal gets approved. Chair, councillors and members of the committee, the local plan requires delivering at least 9,200 dwellings by 2033, emphasising regeneration on previously developed land, to address housing needs. However, the proposal neither offers a net gain in homes nor contributes to regeneration targets. Instead, permanently removes the family home from housing supply in our quiet, peaceful neighbourhood of Sunnycrofts, Little Pigeons and Woollyhook. That's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For your time.
Julia Wright, would you like to come forward, please? If you press one of the buttons. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Put me under pressure now, but yeah, mine's a bit more straight to the point. So I live directly next door to this application. I feel that my property should have been shown in a street scene, as it's not clear quite how close by this residence is to where I live. I don't understand why my premises should be devalued at a stroke of a pen. We know commercial and residential don't mix. And I don't know, would any of you like to have this baby unit next door to you? I hope you'll consider my words and refuse this application, even though it's been recommended to you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. The applicant, Renu Pinjara. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm acting on behalf of the applicant. I was the agent for the application. I think the planning officer has very concisely put out the material planning considerations for the application. There have been no objections from the police. They're satisfied with the security measures. It's minimal CCTV and fence and gate. The County Council have raised no objections in terms of highway safety, parking or traffic issues, and the Council's Environmental Health Officer has raised no issues with regards to the development coming forward or raised any specific requirements for any conditions. We've agreed the occupational management plan, which will provide further details on how the site will be managed. I think it's important just to reiterate that the MPPF does require LPAs to consider all housing needs for their communities, all the different groups in the community, and that includes affordable housing, families with children, children who are looked after, as a small example. There's no specific policy on the provision of mother and baby units. However, the council, whether it be the county or the local, are required to provide housing for people that live within their area, and sometimes, you know, these people do come from outside. Not to say that this site would do that, but we all know that sometimes people have to be placed out. Paragraph 96 of the MPPF states that policies should encourage and aim to achieve inclusive places where there's social interaction and opportunities for meeting people who may not come into contact, and they will support healthy living and well-being, especially where there's a local identified need. Now, I know there was a reference that there is no demand for places. The FOI request, which we got from Essex County Council, which was Appendix 1 to the planning statement, sets out how many mothers just last year had to be placed outside of Essex, and that was 5, because there were no spaces within the area. And every year since 2020, mothers and babies have had to be placed outside of the area because there haven't been any spaces available. You always have to have spaces available. You never know how many you need at any one time, but it does show that there is a need for it, and it has been accepted. With regards to not meeting Policy H4 does allow the loss, well, if you can justify the loss of family housing, Part D does state that the loss of family housing is acceptable if it facilitates other types of housing or other policy aspirations in the local plan. Local plan doesn't have a specific policy on mother and baby units. However, it does follow the MPPF, which says that all housing needs should be provided for within the local plans. My viewing is done.
On time. Thank you very much indeed.
What do I press to switch off?
Chris, is there anything there you want to respond to, or just wait for questions?
Yes, questions.
wait for questions, okay. Members- Emma?
Thank you, Chair. My first question... Thank you, Chair. So my first question is, do we know how many staff are going to be on in the premise, and where are they going to be staying as well? Because it wasn't particularly clear on that point.
So staff patterns and levels haven't been confirmed. That would be something that would be included within the operational management plan. But it's understood that there'll be a minimum of 2 staff during the day, and then there'll be 1 staff member during the night who would stay in a office space. There wouldn't be any sleeping accommodation. They would continue working throughout the night in case there's any issues that arise.
Oh, sorry, one. It says that the mothers will be there for up to 12 weeks. So what happens to them after that? And what is the anticipated level of rotation?
If you want to answer that.
Yeah, so as I say, the planned duration is up to 12 weeks, and then after that assessment period, depending on the outcomes, there will be just the applicant would have discussions with the relevant local authorities, in this case Essex County Council, Ofsted, to find suitable accommodation arrangements.
Yep. So I've got a couple of questions, or clarification, I suppose, in a way, because it's very difficult, on these sort of matters. Again, the accommodation for the staff was one that's concerned me as to where they're going to stay. I was trying to, from the plan, as to what, apart from the bedroom, so it's all bedrooms upstairs. I can't see there's room downstairs, so I'm just concerned that where they will stay, or if there's a need for somebody to stay. Well, they will stay overnight.
Yeah, so on the existing and proposed ground floor plans, there is space for an office, and that's where they would primarily stay during their shifts.
Yeah. The other one, excuse me while I get to my... So this, the operation, I was concerned the fire authority have not really come back with a proper assessment of what's should be required there. I know it's not part of our brief here, but I strike it as it's a concern that I have. If you've got 5 mothers and 5 babies upstairs, and if there's a problem and there's a fire downstairs, I understand they can't have a separate exit, but I'm concerned it might be something that the applicant needs to consider about fire precautions, whether there's fire extinguishers available upstairs for the mums and daughters, mothers and children. I did have another question there. I did visit the site, so I can say the parking is acceptable. I think it's enough for 4 or 5 cars, although it's a tight turning circle. You can get in and out. Yeah, and it doesn't. I suppose no. That's me. Will there be lighting in the garden? Would it be floodlights which will affect the neighbours? Do you know? Nothing in the plans for it.
First, do you want me to clarify the fire safety comment?
Yeah, if you can do, yes, please.
So, as I say, the Essex Fire and Rescue were consulted on the application. They raised no objections. On the officer's report, there's a number of informatives attached, and a lot of the issues raised in terms of fire safety would be dealt under the building regulation stage. And then in terms of the external lighting, again, that would be something that would be covered within the operational management plan.
Thank you very much. No more questions? Anybody wants to debate? Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. I feel that the residents, or some of the residents, who are expressing a certain level of nervousness, some anxiety about the change of use, that is to be expected because they're accustomed to a particular situation, a status quo, and in my experience, that is natural. This is often how residents react to this kind of application, this sort of change of use. And some people have asked or stated fears about noise, and, well, babies make a noise sometimes, they do. I've noticed that. But that, and sometimes exactly when you don't want them to. That's just how babies are. But residents want to have good neighbours. Of course they do. They want to have good neighbours. They want to feel that they are being looked after, and that's how it should be. But of course they want good neighbours. We all want good neighbours, including the people who will end up living in this house for a time because they need to be there. There will be security measures. We've seen in the overheads, we've seen where they'll be situated, which will help to protect those who will be in the house and those around. So there'll actually be a bit of additional security for everybody. We've heard that, and I hadn't actually thought about this, that there's no specific policy to look after women, mother and baby unit, and maybe there should be. Maybe there should be. Maybe we should all be speaking out for mothers and babies and saying, come on, let's have a special policy that would protect them. And maybe that will come in future, but we don't have that yet. So this is a change of use to provide a home for, on a temporary basis, admittedly, for young mums, possibly vulnerable mothers and their babies. And this is a project that we should all support. It is something that we need. It's something that we should agree to and support this evening with all our hearts, in a spirit of generosity, to give a home, give a roof to those mothers and babies who desperately need that. So I hope that you'll all support this application.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Leopard.
Is that on? That's on, okay. I hear what Councillor Morrison says. I think one of the things we should be considering, and it is a matter of policy as well, I do agree with that. We're seeing a number of these cases coming up, often related to children, as this one is, and we've seen others in the past. What we should not lose sight, even though they often appear altruistic and generous, we are talking about converting a residential property, taking it off the market for essentially commercial reasons. These are driven, let's not delude ourselves, these are driven by commercial reasons. If you own a house and you want to keep it as a house and you don't want to live in it for whatever reason, you can rent it out on the market. Obviously, this generates more revenue to the owner of the house. And we are now saying we are willing to allow housing stock to be reduced for commercial purposes in areas where possibly it's not the best place to put them. And I think the neighbours we have to consider their interests in this, because this is a major change of use, not specifically this case any more than the others, but the concept of turning a residential property for commercial use in a residential area is a matter of some consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to? Councillor Holcomb.
Thank you, Chair. The whole point of this item is for mums and babies that have had safeguarding problems. They are coming for 12 weeks. They are going to get items that they can age, this on page 14, different things that they are going to be talking about that they will take on board, hopefully, and use it in the future. But we are a council that is caring for everybody, and that's how we should project it for everybody. Because if you're a house owner and you sell your property, you may sell it to a developer. That developer may want to put an HMO in it. Private property nowadays is not private as it used to be, where families were in it for donkey's years. People move on, and developers come in, and different organisations come in. But that does not mean that we shouldn't live alongside, and I know that I'm not in your position, but I would hope that if I was, I would think about the base that mother's come from, and the child or children that she's trying to give a better life to. That's the impact of all this. The police are happy with it. If you look at the 2 and 3, the conditions, that covers a lot of the safety, the lighting, etc., etc. Essex County is doing a lot more now because it's needed a lot more now. It's growing. It's not receding now because people are in different situations. They're in trouble and they need a safe place to go. 12 weeks is not long, but it's long enough that when they move on, they won't forget it because they know that the staff that are going to be there and the other mums that are going to be there, they're a sort of a family for that short time, and it's going to make an impact. So I don't think that as a council, when we take all that on board and we could bring a policy through, I don't think that's the bad idea at all. But we cannot ignore the younger people nowadays that are in a lot of trouble, from the little ones to the mums in this situation. And I don't think that we should ignore them and turn this down, because that's our role as a council, to look after everybody in our town and be very proud of that, because we are community and this is what this is part of. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else want to make any comments? No? I've just said a lot of what I wanted to say. There, if you use the one, unfortunately, there is a need for these units. The young mothers, some of them perhaps too young to be bearing child, having children, and they're still children themselves, so they need some help. And I think as a councillor, as you quite rightly say, councillor, as a councillor, caring councillors, we need to provide something for them. It's not a lot, it's 5 spaces. With my Essex hat on, Essex County Council hat on, I know how desperate it is to have these units, I shouldn't call it a unit, it's a house, in the right place, and Harlow needs them here. And, you know, so this will help keep the young mothers and their babies in Harlow, hopefully, and build a better life for themselves if they get the right education from this unit. So whilst it does upset, obviously, neighbours, you know, that it's a perception sometimes that you think, oh, it's going to be terrible, but they are covered by Essex County Council and Ofsted, so you have places to if there are any need for the complaints, but you have somewhere to go. Hopefully there won't be any, and you can all get on well together. That's the thing. So, well, assuming it depends on how you vote. So, with that, I won't say any more. So that the recommendation is to grant permission is on page 15. All those in favour? All those against? And abstentions? 1 abstention. So that's granted. Thank you very much. You may leave if you wanted to go.
Might end up with a suicidal neighbour who can't have children, have a mixed of people that can't even
Please,
look after
please.
their children because their parents haven't taught them how to look after themselves properly. Do you remember my face? It might be in the paper.
I'm sorry for the outburst, but I don't
No,
see
no,
unusual.
please.
I know this is unusual.
The meeting has decided.
For 22
Please.
years.
No, please. This.
Okay, I'll let
decide-
it
yeah,
go, but
yeah.
we would never recommend that next door to a domestic property. Never, ever. Okay, you've got plenty of commercial areas in Harlow.